The official F1 page on Twitter posted that both McLaren cars were disqualified from the Las Vegas Grand Prix. This message received 178,000 likes. This made me wonder why so many people hate McLaren. So I asked in a post on Twitter and on Threads, and the reactions flooded in. I've never seen the F1 community so united. We usually fight over anything. What is it about the Papaya team that triggers this kind of reaction? Let's find out. Let me start by sharing how I feel about the McLaren team. When I started watching in 2015, they were at the bottom of the standings. The drivers were getting record numbers of grid penalties because their reliability was so poor. They gradually became better and better, and also gathered more and more sponsors. I rooted for Norris and Sainz, and I did the same for Norris and Ricciardo. I am very impressed with how they went from a 2023 backmarker to the dominant team they are in 2025. I own McLaren merch, and I've met loads of lovely McLaren fans at the races I visited. I have to say, things have changed in this season, and I do see a point in what people have against McLaren at the moment. I've added up every time a name or another grievance was mentioned by the people that took the effort to comment on the post I made on Threads and Twitter. This gave me a top 5 of things F1 fans hate about McLaren. Let's start with number 5. McLaren is a pretty old team. In the history of the Woking team, they've been up against some other titans of the sport. They fought with Williams, Renault, and most of all, Ferrari. It's safe to say Ferrari and McLaren are arch enemies. They were involved in a few scandals together, especially Spygate was a big one. If you're a new fan, I'll explain briefly, as this happened in 2007. A disgruntled employee of Ferrari faxed details of their car to an employee of McLaren. This employee used a fax machine and made copies in a shop. The guy in the shop didn't trust the situation, with all the Ferrari logos on the papers, and notified them. Big scandal. Very big fine as well. Ron Dennis, the owner at the time, had to pay the FIA $100 million. In the comments, a few people mentioned Spygate. The hate between the Tifosi and McLaren is still visible in Italy, when the McLaren drivers are booed and Max Verstappen is cheered on, even though they used to hate him. I see this as a healthy rivalry, and it gives the sport color. The next reason for people to hate McLaren also gives the stands at the circuits color. Now that the McLaren team is in their winning ways again, their fan base got a lot louder. A lot more Papaya merchandise is being sold, especially with the hype from Drive to Survive and the F1 movie. This fan base has had a massive boost thanks to the popularity of their drivers too. The Aussies love Oscar Piastri, and young people from all over the world are fans of Lando Norris. Now, let me get this clear. I'm not a gatekeeper, and I'm always open to discussing F1 stuff with anyone. Old, young, male, female, regardless of what nationality they are, I'll chat with them. However, social media is being run over by new McLaren fans who are very passionate about their drivers, but don't necessarily understand everything that's going on. I used to argue a lot with Team LH on Twitter, but lately it's that new group of McLaren fans. They can be quite dramatic too, even when Lando Norris was winning everything. The Oscar Piastri fans got a lot quieter lately, because their boy isn't winning anymore. They are vocal about how the team is run lately. In the comments underneath my question about why people hate McLaren, quite a few people mentioned the fan base. Of course, as always on the net, there were misogynistic undertones in what they said, and I tried to stay away from that. As I've said before, I welcome every new fan, and I realize there's a learning curve to every sport. I have to say, after watching F1 for 11 seasons now, there are a lot of things I still don't understand, like oversteer and understeer. I know one guy who knows exactly what the difference is, and he's mentioned third most by the people who commented. 38 times Lando Norris was mentioned in the comments as the reason why they hated McLaren. Now, I have to say that the majority say that hate was a big word, but they disliked how Lando Norris has changed over the years. How he used to be a funny, open, honest, friendly kid who treated the F1 world like a playground. I agree with this. I thought he was hilarious, and the sound bites he gave us were legendary. From the It's Friday then, it's Saturday, Sunday, what? To they were all classics. I didn't mind his openness on the interviews he gave with the breakfast show, and overall I liked him, and many other people did. But then he started to change. For some reason he felt people didn't take him seriously anymore, and he needed to be more stern in his ways or something. He started shouting at his race engineer Will Joseph more, and even though he was known to be honest, his interviews after races were often a bit snooty, and he came across as spoiled. He would blame himself for mistakes in an over-the-top way, while also shifting the blame to others. It got worse in 2024 when he finally started winning. A lot of people cringed at the things he dared to say about Vettel and what he said to Hamilton in the cool-down room. He may not have been wrong, and Hamilton was pointing out how good the car was, but the reaction was nasty. Then his friendship with Max Verstappen also made him uneasy that season. He clearly got tired of the questions about it, while Max was giving Lando his flowers. Well, not on track. On track, Verstappen fights everyone the same. It was like Norris couldn't make that distinction between on and off track. He acted in a better way in Brazil in 2024 when he was beaten from pole by Verstappen in P17. Recently he claimed that he would be a better racer if he had a racing father like Verstappen had. Those types of comments don't sit well with the fan bases. He also played down how good the MCL39 was many times, which I thought wasn't very nice for the people who worked hard on it. That car is the best car over the whole season, especially now that they've changed it more to his liking. No, I'm saying this on behalf of the Aussies who watch this. There's a general feeling that he gets favoured by McLaren, and while they keep claiming that they have two number one drivers, they seem to go a little harder for one driver, the one whose father invested in McLaren, the driver who was a business partner of the CEO of McLaren. The way McLaren has handled their drivers was the number two thing people commented on under my posts. 56 times the Papaya rules were mentioned as the reason why they hated McLaren. And I get it. Seeing drivers swap positions is not what we get up early or stay up late for. McLaren has done this way too often and for ridiculous reasons. In a bid to seem wholesome and sportive, saying they want to give both drivers equal opportunity, they killed racing and messed with the drivers' heads. I don't know what stranglehold contracts both drivers have, but they always complied as well, even if they didn't agree with it. Maybe they were told that they were replaceable and they'd get sacked in an instant if they didn't obey. But I know at least 15 drivers who would have told them where to go if they were asked. That's how it should be, in my opinion. Maybe they were also told not to spray certain other drivers on the podium, as people are still pissed about Hülkenberg being on his own or Antonelli getting no attention. Maybe that's the reason for it. In 2024, they waited until it was too late to help Norris against Verstappen, and this season they waited long enough and messed around so much Piastri lost his competitiveness. I wonder what would happen if Piastri is out of contention after Qatar. If he's asked to help Lando against Max. Imagine the scenes! Anyway, McLaren has lost the identity they used to have and has become a commercial juggernaut in F1. And I think they feel they need to behave a certain way to please sponsors. Having the US president in your garage has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way too. Therefore, people want to see McLaren lose now. And thanks to all their meddling, they haven't locked in both championships. So many points were lost due to errors and weird decisions that Verstappen is now 24 points away from Norris. If they lose the driver's title, they will only have themselves to blame, as they didn't give the drivers, or at least one driver, the confidence to bring it home. There's one guy in McLaren who's hated the most, and he gets the blame for everything as well. I think you can guess who. McLaren's larger-than-life CEO Zak Brown copped 81 mentions underneath my social media posts. He annoys people big time. His presence in McLaren is food for most of the complaints about the Woking team. Okay, I think you get the picture. There was quite a bit of fat shaming in the comments, and as someone who used to be large, this should stop. although he was seen in the Red Bull hospitality area a lot in 2021. Just saying. As a Max fan, Zak Brown has triggered me a lot with the things he said about Verstappen. He said he could only win in the fastest car and shit like that. But Max Verstappen got his own back. Zak Brown also talked a lot of smack about Christian Horner, especially when he was in the ropes. But this season, loads of things have happened that look exactly like Red Bull situations. Lawsuits with drivers, sacking a driver and replacing him with a junior driver from a rival. He screamed that Red Bull were cheaters time and again, while his cars drove around with flexi wings and double DRS flaps. He's still trying to beef with Red Bull, even now Christian Horner is replaced with that sweet, wholesome little Frenchman, Laurent Mekies. Zak better lay off him, as he will get destroyed by the media. Nobody touches Laurent. That was the problem with Brown. I think he had everything to say about Horner and then turned into him, trying so hard to be that guy. Oh, and by the way, he sets a bad example for Norris as well, as he's also trying to be that guy. Brown is always very present when they win, slapping everybody and saying yeah, yeah. But when they get disqualified or Piastri gets a moronic penalty, we hear crickets. And he's nowhere to be seen. So yeah, Zak Brown is pretty much the most hated man in F1 right now, and he's dragging the popularity of the wonderful team with him. Mind you, if they win both trophies and they make $100 million in the process, he'll not give a damn about it, and we as fans are left to moan about it. If you subscribe, you won't hear me moan. Take care now. Doei doei.